Welcome to One Thought at a Time with Ian Travers, where we get curious about what makes us tick. I'm joined for a second time by the naked warrior herself, Claire. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to come back. It's great to be here.
Well, you know, we had so much unfinished conversation last time, and lots has happened since.
Yes.
So tell us what's been happening in your world since, before we get into today's discussion.
Gosh, it has definitely been very, very busy. Normal working with all my teams and my drivers, just supporting them at the track, getting some great results at the moment. We're looking close to, fingers crossed, winning a championship, a couple more races to go. So I'm excited to see that journey and see how it's going to end. Also, I've been working really hard to take my bespoke race fit programs and put them into my app program that I have. So I've literally just launched Race Fit app, which is really, really exciting. So I've been working hard behind the scenes to create all the programs so, you know, a driver can pick it up whether or not they're in a GT car or a single seater. You know, a carter person can pick up the app and then they can go and have the right training program for them. And also motorcyclists as well, because there's not many motorcycle fit programs out there. So it's incorporating all the different elements that, you know, these three disciplines need to have to be fitter for their racing.
Right.
And I've created programs for them. They literally pick up their phone. They've got me. It's like training with me one-to-one, app on their phone. And you've got the fitness programs in there. We've got the nutrition programs in there. And then they also get access to me as well. So that's what I've been doing. So it was writing the programs, filming all the exercises, because as you can imagine, they're not just standard generic exercises.
Yeah.
And each of those disciplines has different needs. So, you know, there's different exercises I do when I'm training my clients one-to-one that I wanted to bring into the app.
Yeah.
So I had to go then film all of those, and then it's the editing and, you know, all the tech stuff behind it, and then all the planning. And yeah, I'm really excited that it's now launched. So it's racefitapp.com. It's awesome.
Brilliant. Well, let's unpack some of that. So first of all, for those who may not be aware, tell us about the different championships that you're involved in.
Sure. Okay. So one of the championships, it's the Brit Car Trophy Championship. Mm-hmm. So running with the Clio cars at the moment. Mm-hmm. You know, they're a mixture of endurance races and shorter races. So, you know, depending on the race weekend, it's the different training demands or the different demands that you'd have on that day in terms of spacing out, you know, when you're qualifying and when your races, and the logistics of each of the drivers, because they're shared. We've had prototype cars racing as well. And, you know, it's a lot more physical in those cars, and the races can either be shared or one driver. So it's trying to manage them. So, you know, with any driver, it's all about making sure that we have the right recovery for them when they've got out the car, making sure they're activated and warmed up properly. And as you're very well aware as well, making sure that the mindset's switched on and they can focus on what they're good at and forgetting about everything else. Because that's what I'm there for, you know, to help with their nutrition, to help with their hydration, and just manage all those external pressures and stresses so they're not getting overwhelmed on their race day. So also working with some international clients as well, motorcycle racing. So managing that from overseas, right. You know, it's a lot of time spent on the phone and just making sure that they're set up correctly in race week as well. And I've got lots of karters at the moment, so it's a wide range of ages as well. So it's managing the dynamics that brings, and whether it's indoor karting, outdoor karting, you know, and the power of the car, the age of the person as well, because then it's those different physical demands and the different emotional development and knowing what stages they're at as well.
Are you seeing any signs of increase in females in motorsport?
I'm happy to say yes.
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 Good, because it really is. You know, when you look around a paddock, and I know that motorsport can have very, very high entry barriers financially anyway, but they're just, it's so heavily biased one way. Yeah.
It's definitely changing. You know, we've had some big milestones happening this year. We've got the specific initiative, obviously launched by Susie Wolf as well, coinciding that it's the step on from the W Series. I don't like to say it's a replacement to W Series. It's a whole different kettle of fish, but it's something there for women. Yeah. We've got the Drive Academy that Team Sport have just launched as well to recognise young karters, young female karters, you know, and creating a plan for them. So, you know, where they're achieving in their local team sport, then they can take it, and making sure that they've got the right support network in place around that. So I've been working alongside a few of the ladies or young girls that are going through that program as well, to make sure that they're on track. Pardon the pun.
There's you and I both met Catherine Potter.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about mindset. She's always really impressed me that, all of that stuff she does. I think at the age of 14, setting up a business to fund her karting, because I don't think people recognise just how much has to happen before you even get behind the wheel of anything. So it's a potential future podcast guest worth looking out for as well, Claire, is I think on Instagram it's Lara Moto.
Okay.
Races GP bikes.
Right.
Very, very... in fact, when I met her running an event a couple of weeks ago, she actually had her arm in a sling.
Oh, did she?
She had just had a dislocation, which looked a bit painful, but straight back in it. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation as well. That's coming up. So and then just tell us a bit more about the app then. So where can people find the app?
Sure. Well, if you're following me, The Naked Warrior, on any of my socials, obviously there's information on there. There is a standalone website, Instagram page. It's racefitapp.com. Just racefitapp.com, and you'll go and find it anywhere. And then you can just obviously download and select the right program that's for you. And then you can literally just start your training straight away. You don't have to have a gym membership. I've created a program so you can work out at home, you can work out in the gym, or you can do a combination of both areas. And also it's making sure that it's a wide variety of equipment, because not everyone's going to have a dumbbell. Some people might have a kettlebell. Yep. So it's making sure that we've got all the right variations, but we're still targeting the right muscle groups in the right way for that discipline, and that's very unique and bespoke. So it's all of the experience that I've had with all the drivers that I've worked with in the past, and kind of getting it out of my brain, downloading it and putting it into a format where an app can read it and then create this program. So, it's down to the user. It's interactive. They're recording their workouts. They're getting their progressions. They're doing their updates. And the beauty about that is they get the full accountability from myself as well, because I can see it from the back end, and I can see where they're progressing, potentially offer them advice on how they can then improve in other areas. And then also, if they haven't logged in for a while, I'll be dropping them a message, say, hey.
So it really is almost like the coach in your pocket, isn't it?
Exactly. That's
great.
So,
and I must pick your brains on the app as well, because I've for many years keep thinking about how do I appify some of this stuff. So we should probably talk about that.
Absolutely.
So we said we would get together this time. So this kind of breaks the one thought at a time mold a little bit. So we're not going to talk about your story this time. We did that, please look in our back catalogue to find the interview with Claire. There is a lot being talked about at the minute about nutrition, what to eat, how to eat it, when to eat it. And we've talked about the link between nutrition and fitness and performance and mindset. So we thought that we'd just unpack some of that today.
Yes. Oh God, we could be here for weeks. So you're going to try and simplify it as much as possible.
Yeah. So let me kick it off, I suppose, by my own curiosity. As you know, I'm always fascinated by human performance and the mindset. And the thing that I have found astounding over recent years is what we're starting to understand about the connection between what we put in our stomach, in our gut, and what goes on in our mind and our head, and how actually closely linked they are. I mean, not close, physically linked. So, go on, you start from the food end, because that's where you know best. So,
I'm actually going to start from the anatomy side of things, because then people will understand why it's so heavily linked. So you have a nerve that goes through your body that connects your brain from its brainstem all the way through, literally all through all the organs in your body, out through your colon, but it also penetrates through your gastroenteral wall as well.
Right.
And it's called your vagus nerve.
Right.
So it's your mind-stomach connection. And the great thing about this nerve as well, one of the most unique things about it, it is it's a two-way messaging system, if you like. So most nerves in the body, they'll send a neurotransmitter and it goes one way to action a potential thing to happen.
Yes.
Whereas with the vagus nerve, or it's also known as a wandering nerve because it goes through all the body, it will send messages from both ends, if you like, from the brain and from your gut too. So it's really essential that we have optimum gut health to make sure that the right messages are being sent up to the brain, and then the right messages are coming back out from the brain as well. And there's a lot of different things in that. It's making sure you have good gut health, that you're putting the right foods into your body, and also making sure that you're not putting the wrong food into your body as well.
This is something that, and again, almost saying it now, it almost feels like such archaic thinking. But, I always used to think, well, when your stomach's full, that's when we stop eating. But it's nothing like that, is it? It depends what you put in, because there's this message, as you say, sent upwards to the brain that will either say, eat more of me, don't eat me, stop eating.
Yeah.
It's
even more than that. I mean, you do have your hunger hormones, which are released, and when people do a lot of yo-yo dieting, it's leptin and ghrelin that are these hunger hormones, and
right.
they make you they signal hunger, and they also signal satiety.
Right.
So when you're feeling full, so they can get messed up with eating the wrong foods, but a lot of yo-yo dieting and things like that. But it's also important, if you think about from a mood perspective, and we're having a look at your mindset and your mental health, then your hormones for those emotions are also released and what's the word I'm looking for? Produced in your gut as well.
Right.
So, if you don't have a healthy gut, then your production of serotonin and dopamine isn't going to be as high.
Right.
Your production of anti-anxiety hormone, which is GABA, that's going to be thrown off as well. So if you think that, there's it's all chaos with those hormones, then you're not going to have clear thoughts. You're not going to have clarity of thinking. Your moods are going to be up and down. You might feel really alert and wired, or you might feel really slow, sluggish, and in a low mood as well.
And we are in direct control of what we choose to eat.
Yeah.
That has a direct effect on those. So, GABA. Tell me a bit more about GABA, because I've got an interest in the anxiety piece as well. So GABA is what effect does that have on anxiety?
Well, it's anti-anxiety, so it's the feelings of being calm within your body.
Right.
So if we'll backtrack. So you've got your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system within your body, and a lot of what when you're digesting your food, you need to be in your parasympathetic nervous system. So for those of you who aren't aware of those, so your sympathetic nervous system, it's your fight or flight nervous system. So it's the one that makes you move quickly. It's one that makes you respond to danger.
The butterflies in the stomach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but when you're then in your parasympathetic nervous system, it's your rest, it's your digest, it's your rejuvenation side.
Right.
So that's where you want to be when you're eating, when you're looking to try and wind down. So if you think about, you've got those two sympathetic nervous systems, and what their purpose is. One's for survival, one's to optimize rest, digestion, nourishment and replenishment in your body.
Yeah. When
the hormones that signal those actions are messed up by stress, by what you're eating, by lifestyle habits, then clear signals aren't going to be sent. So potentially you're going to be in a stress state, and then you're not going to be able to have the right amount of anti-anxiety hormones released to put you back into that parasympathetic nervous system.
So is this why if you are particularly stressed or anxious about something, that you actually don't feel hungry potentially?
Yes, because if you think when you're in an elevated stress state, and that could be, from a trauma, or it could be over time through chronic stress. When you're in that elevated state, think of what, it was designed to do. It was designed to get you to fight or flight. Yeah. So the last thing your body would have been wanting at that time is to eat, because it wants, exactly. So because your energy is needed to put into your muscles to make you move or fight, so it's not going to be going into your digestive system to want to digest food. So you're not going to be hungry.
Right. And so this is where GABA has a role to play.
Yeah, and then also it's thinking about, when you are in that stress state, that's when your cortisol levels are high, and then that also has a knock-on effect on your energy production. When your cortisol levels are high, it impacts your insulin and your blood sugar level balance as well. So then you can't always get access to the blood sugar within your muscles, and then it's in your bloodstream, and then people can put on weight. So it all links back to these nervous systems, stress state, what you're eating.
I mean, it's really interesting because obviously the cortisol thing is very important when I'm talking to people about sort of mindset as well, because particularly when you're trying to learn new ways of talking to yourself and you get stressed and cortisol is released, it kind of numbs a lot of that stuff down as well. So the ability to use, I mean, years and years ago when I was training sort of self-defense in a police environment, you could see the result of people suddenly losing the ability to use fine motor skills when cortisol floods. So so if we can find a way, how do we stop that by what we eat?
It's more to do with lifestyle habits, so obviously managing your stress, because it's the impact that stress has on your digestive system. It can offset the balance of your good bacteria and the natural bad bacteria you have in your stomach as well. And when you don't have that correct balance, it impacts your ability to absorb the right amount of nutrients. That's on one side of it, and then on the other side of it as well, if you think about that, when most people are stressed or they're rushed, they eat quickly, they eat on the move, and then so you're not going to be able to maximize that rest and digest nervous system. That's why we promote as much as we can, being mindful about how you eat, taking time to sit down, actually physically slow down, because then all of the blood from everywhere around your body, it can then be shifted to your digestive system so it can function properly and absorb your nutrients, push all the food through as it needs to, and then you can maximize what it's meant to do. But when you're stressed, you're eating quickly, you're not chewing properly, you get indigestion, and it's all these other things that come with it as well.
There's such a parallel here. I mean, if I think about the work that I do in businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, and I've worked in different countries, different cultures, and the UK seems to have this real thing about people eating at their desk. And I heard some statistic the other day: the average pack of sandwiches that you'll get from any well-known supermarket chain, it's something like it takes an average person like 7 minutes to consume.
Wow.
So if you think about, work could be a stressful environment for some, particularly if you've not got control of the way you think, and then you're sat at your desk, which is your work environment, and you're stuffing a sandwich in of questionable nutritional value in 7 minutes. I mean, that kind of just...
When you put it like that, it's a no-brainer. That cannot be good for you. You're not going to be in the best place to have good health and longevity and vitality, regardless if you're looking for performance or anything like that. But, talking about those hunger hormones that we spoke about before, it takes about 20 minutes for them to be signaled that, okay, the food's entered my system. Right. The whole digestive process actually starts from the physical moment that you actually look at your food. Right. When you think about the last time you saw a delicious looking meal, your mouth starts watering. That's your first response to, okay, my body's getting ready now to digest this food. Right. It's creating the right digestive enzymes in your mouth to start breaking down the food that you're about to eat. It's about taking small bites. It's also about trying to chew as many times as you can. There's
just gulping it.
Because it puts less stress on your body to have to break it down. It makes the absorption process and digestive process quicker. You should be chewing things up to about 20 times. Right. So, and I often do a good thing, like sometimes with, young children that I work with as well, to have awareness of food and textures is, do something with an apple. It's like, take a bite of the apple, but first of all, look at it, smell it, notice the colours on it, take a bite, notice the crunch of the skin, and then take 20 times to bite and to chew it, and just feel it breaking down in your mouth, feel the textures inside your mouth, and then you swallow it down. But
mouth's watering.
But if you think about a delicious meal, or if people talk about chocolate or food that they love, and it's really interesting. I've got a few friends who are really into cookery, and they'll always talk about food with their hands as well. And I just love talking to them because they get so animated. You can actually see them, thinking about prepping the food, but it's such a visual and, physical experience. And being in the right nervous system to aid that digestive process is, it needs to be optimal. So if you're talking about sitting at your desk, you're in a stressed state, you're already heightened, your digestive system doesn't have the right amount of blood flow to be able to break down the food anyway. You've not started and engaged this process at the mouth correctly. So what are you actually going to be able to absorb?
Right.
And then it's the food choices that you're making. We need to make sure they've got the right amount of nutrients into the body to then feed the brain as well, rather than just also looking after your good healthy gut. It's also about making sure that there's an adequate food and the right food to give the nutrients to the brain that it needs as well.
It's interesting. There's so much being talked about in this space at the minute, but my attention has been drawn, particularly since COVID, to the work of Tim Spector and the Zoe thing, and really understanding that even generic diet advice is sometimes not that helpful because we are different the way that we. But I think this whole area of looking after what we put inside us, and he mentions, and I've heard others mention it too, about eating diverse stuff for our gut biome. And 30 plants a week. Now, I must admit, when I first read that, I thought, 30 plants a week? How on earth do you do that? Yet, night before last, Jane, my wife, made a sauce to go with, and we counted. There were 7 plants in it. Yeah.
It's not hard when you think about
it.
Yeah, and it's, I always use the principle of, trying to eat like a rainbow. So throughout the whole day, you're having foods of different colours as well. And it's to try and make sure you get the full nutrient profile from them, so the micronutrients and all your vitamins and minerals, because different fruit and veg have different minerals to other ones, different vitamins to other ones. So it's trying to make sure you get that full spectrum to optimise your nutrient intake, which in turn is going to help keep you nice and healthy and, vitality as well.
So if you were talking to one of your clients at the start of a process, or even anyone listening here, what's kind of nutrition 101? Where would you get people to start? Let's assume that they've been completely unconscious consumers of food. So let's say they've probably been rushing their food, probably just been listening to popular advice. So how do we start?
The one thing that I've probably found with clients, whether it be fitness or motorsport related, across the board throughout these years, it's hydration. It's making sure that you're drinking enough water.
Right.
Many people do not consume near enough as much water they need to function properly. So water, hydration is key. You think we're 70% water. We need water for everything to function.
That's bonkers, isn't it? I mean, if you actually think about that for one, it's that's a lot of water.
Yeah,
we are not much without it.
But it's also needed for everything in your body and to help with all the processes as well. And again, coming back to the digestive process, you need the fluid to help the natural process of peristalsis. Your intestines is smooth muscle, so it acts autonomously, but you think it's got to do that action to push everything through.
Yes.
Without being too graphic.
But
it does that by being lubricated, and it also does that through movement as well. So you need to make sure the hydration, so everything's being pushed through. Then also making sure, like I said, try and eat like a rainbow. So think about your food and your meals that you're having throughout the day. I'd also say downsize your portion sizes. Instead of having a big dinner plate portion, go try and eat on a small side plate portion and eat slower, and then try to have something of each colour every day. And people are like, oh, how do you do that? And it's easy. I remember one time, I was going through different nutritional medicine, food healing type processes. And I was doing a little bit of, investigating for myself and seeing, different fasts and things like that. And I created like a rainbow fast, if you like. So for 7 days of the week, I'd have a red day, yellow day, orange day. So I was like, right, I need to now go and find these foods of this specific colour.
Yeah.
And when you had that thought process, it just opened up to all these other array of foods. So I mean, breakfast, you could have a banana, you could have blueberries, or something like that, piece of fruit in the morning with the rest of your breakfast.
Not with the waffle and cream then?
No. Definitely not with the waffle and cream. That will go with your blood sugar levels and so many other things. And then, mid-morning snack, it's like, okay, if you've, having a look at maybe having some vegetable sticks or something different like that, having salad at lunchtime in a whole grain wrap or, something else with salad. And afternoon snack as well, having some hummus with some, on a, like a rice cake or something like that, you can put slices of tomato on it. And then in your evening meal, just load it up with vegetables. And, the other thing, what a lot of people do is they look at their diet in the one day, and it's like, look at it in the whole week.
Right.
Because one day, you might find that you're hungrier, you might be more active, so your calorie demands are going to be higher. And the next day might not be as active, so they're not going to need as much fuel. And then it negates that whole theory of like, oh, I've had a bad day on a Wednesday, I'm going to restart the diet on a Monday.
Right.
And then they blow it out for the rest of the week. So the way I look at it is, if you've got 7 days in a week, if you're going to have breakfast, lunch and dinner and 2 snacks every day, that's 35 meals technically, or 35 times you're putting food into your body. And if 80% of those meals, they're good, they're balanced, they're on point, it negates and allows for those other little 20% where sometimes you can't always grab the foods that you want to while you're going out for social functions, or you do want that little bit of cake or something, and so then it's like, okay, well, my week's looking like this, I've got 80% at 35, so it's as long as like 29 of your meals are good. My maths is right there, isn't it?
Yeah. Then that's okay. So rather than getting too obsessed about a meal a day,
it's like look at it from the whole week.
And I think the colour thing's really interesting, isn't it? Because and again, it's these things, as you become more aware of it, which plays into sort of the mindset piece. As soon as you've started to become inquisitive about this, I found myself sometimes, you on a works event, and you suddenly think, oh, that looks very brown. I mean, and a lot of, if you are involved in sort of a corporate event, the sandwiches come out, the samosas come out, the chicken wings come out, and you think, looks very brown.
I'm always like, well, where's the green? Where's the salad? And if you're making a salad, you can have like your lettuce, your kale, your spinach. There's tomatoes, peppers, cucumber, anything, beetrut,
and olive oil. I mean, olive oil's on it and all that kind of thing. So
I think we just covered all the colours, didn't we?
Yeah, that's really quite interesting, isn't it? So the 101 would be. Take your time. Lots of colours.
Yes.
Lots of variety. Are there any things that, in general, we should avoid? I know it's very bespoke to an individual, but are there kind of categories of stuff that you think we should probably minimise that?
Things you want to definitely minimise, if we're looking at it from a health perspective and general population perspective, and everyone really, it's your intake of your saturated fat, it's your trans-saturated fat, it's your alcohol, it's your caffeine, it's the fast processed food. It's the food that you could look at in a packet and you look at the ingredients list and it's got like 6, 7, 8 ingredients and you can't even pronounce them.
Right.
So, those are the ones we want to try and avoid as much as possible because of the damage they do inside your body. If you're having diets that are high in fast food takeaways, it's the saturated fat that's used to cook with them, that's going to be damaging to your arteries and your cardiovascular health. It puts your risk of strokes up, blood pressure is going to be up, heart disease is going to be increased, your quality of life is going to decrease.
Yes.
So it's making sure we're minimising those.
Because of course there are good fats.
Exactly, there are and especially for brain health as well, we want to make sure that you have a good intake of your omega-3s and 6s. So it's making sure that you're eating nuts and seeds and oily fish, they're great foods to have.
Yeah.
And also making sure that what we're avoiding and reducing is your simple sugars. So, your sweets, your cakes, your biscuits, your pastries, those type of foods. They play havoc with your pancreas and its ability to release insulin. It quickly gives you a lot of calories without being nutrient dense, which then in turn is going to lead to being having a high risk of diabetes and also being obese as well, which again compromising quality of life, and leading to chronic disease. And as a population, it's going up, and even from a younger age, it's ridiculously it's a problem.
There's an acronym, isn't it? Is it UPFs, isn't it? Ultra processed foods.
Yes.
I think that's what we're talking about here, isn't it? Anything that's been messed around with lots is minimise.
Yeah, and unless you can pick it or pull it out of the ground or kill it, it's going to have some kind of process to it.
Yeah.
So, I spoke about before having a rice cake, and that's quite a good food if it's a whole grain one. Looking at a good snack, trying to make sure that you're having that over like a white-based cracker, because of the glycemic load from it.
Yeah.
But it's still a processed food if you want to break it down to that aspect.
Yes.
I'm an advocate for including yogurt as well, but it's still a processed food. So it's kind of having an understanding that it's not from its natural form, then it is going to be processed. But it's like you said, it's the ultra processed.
I've much to some of my family's disgust at the minute, I've been experimenting with fermented foods.
Oh, perfect. I'm glad we got to this.
Yeah. So fermented foods, where have you been all my life? Kefir and
kombucha.
I haven't tried kombucha yet, so we'll circle back to that. It's like a fermented cabbage and spice and all that kind of thing.
Sauerkraut, kimchi.
Kimchi.
Yes.
Now, kimchi, I've discovered that I love kimchi.
Yes.
My family won't actually be in the same room as me. But yes, so talk a bit about fermented foods, because it's where I don't understand why I haven't eaten more of them before, and understanding some of the health benefits. They seem really good for your gut.
Exactly. So it's the process in which they are made. It goes through a fermentation process, and it's the fermentation inside of that creates the good bacteria, which promotes us having a good gut bacteria. So they have bacteria in them, and then they become like a probiotic. So they're actually supporting our gut health. And then within those, there's prebiotics as well, which is actually what the probiotics eat to be healthier, to then make our gut healthier, if that makes sense.
So just as we're going past prebiotics, probiotics.
Yes.
Boom.
Yes.
Mind already blown. Good terminology.
That's where it gets complicated.
Yeah.
Just try and make sure that you're having some form of fermented probiotic food in your diet on a regular, ideally daily basis. People have the yogurt drinks, and there's things like Yakult as well, which are good, but they're very high sugar.
Right.
So, it's it negates the health perspective of that.
So when we're saying probiotic, we mean encouraging of bacteria.
Yes, and so that's your probiotics that you have. You can buy it in supplementation form, in powder form, and you can add it to different smoothies that you're having, or have it naturally from food, that has been fermented, such as your kimchi, your sauerkraut, and kombucha. I went through a phase once of making my own kombucha as well.
So tell me about kombucha, because I'm not sure I know what kombucha.
It's a fermented drink basically, and most people think of fermentation and it kind of makes alcohol, so that's what they associate it with. But what you have is this little, it's called like your mother, it's a SCOBY. It's like a giant mushroom,
right?
And then you have to feed it, and then what that does is it breaks down, and then the byproduct of that, it puts good bacteria into the liquid, and then you drink the liquid.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it can go wrong sometimes. And you can make it taste like vinegar.
Is that speaking from experience by any chance?
Yes. I drank it anyway because it was good for me.
Oh, excellent. Right, let's see if we can draw it to some kind of order, because we've been all over the place here, but we've talked primarily about the connection between mind, body, and what we eat. given that there's going to be a wide variety of people listening to this, some who will already be well on this journey and some who won't, what do you think would be the 101? What would we want people to get interested in after listening to this? What would you say to them? If you're doing nothing else, go try this tomorrow.
If you're doing nothing else, I would go to try and eat a new fruit or vegetable that you haven't eaten before. So then that's focusing on adding more variety into your diet. It's looking at opening up your consciousness and your mind about what other food is out there. Go to learn how to prepare a new vegetable-based dish. So you know that if you're having that once or twice a week, then you're getting more nutrients into your body. Have a look at doing that, and then also have a look at, eating smaller portion sizes and being more conscious of the food that you're putting into your body. I've always referred back to motorsport with this one. If you've got your supercar, you're not going to put diesel in it when it needs petrol. Right. So you only get one body for your lifetime. So you want to be able to make sure that you can look after it. And with the body as well, it's an amazing piece of equipment. But it will run out over time if it's not looked after. If you look after it properly, you can have a really good, healthy, good quality of life and longevity up into your 80s, 90s, and even hundreds. There are some areas of the world where that's possible. And it's through diet, lifestyle choices, mindset, things like that. So it's trying to have a look at your conscious choices you're making around your food, adding more variety, and being also mindful of your environment in terms of how you feel and being more mindful when you're eating.
So tell me a bit about that. So environment. So in other words, is this playing back to the don't eat at your desk?
Yes. Try not to eat at your desk. Like for myself with my partner and our son, we sit down, we try to make sure that we're having meals together, at least in the evening, 3 or 4 times a week. My son loves like going to lay the table and all this. So we make it a family affair. And, automatically, you've got that connection, you've got that bond, you've got that purpose. Yeah. So that makes you feel good, on a soul level as well. And you're having this time with your loved ones. We will always sit down and, we do gratitudes before we eat as well. Yeah. And we take it in turns. And so it's really interesting to see what each other says that day as well. Yeah. So it's just, deepening and unifying us together as a family. But it's also allowing us to take that time to be appreciative and put us in that parasympathetic nervous system. Right. And then taking our time with food. We'll sit and we'll talk. And, there's another thing that we can do is, when you're eating with your knife and fork, is put your knife and fork down in between your mouthfuls that you're taking 20 times to chew.
Just right. So you're actually enjoying the process rather than that 7 minutes to consume the sandwich, whatever the statistic was.
Yeah, so it's being aware of your environment and then noticing your feelings around that. And also, in terms of environment, it's, your exposure to like negative thoughts and people and things that impact you as well, because if you're feeling low, then that's going to also impact your food choices, which then is also going to impact you, as we've heard about from your inside physiological perspective, which then in turn is going to impact your psychological perspective again. So you get on this little hamster wheel. Yeah. So, and it's really hard, you work with a lot of people and they're like, I feel really low, so I ate this, and you can understand how they got there, but it's just trying to teach that person that when you're in that moment, try not to make those choices, because you're just going to keep going around that same wheel, if you like. So it's like, obviously, yes, I know you feel bad, but if you do this, you're nourishing your body and it's going to make you feel better in the long term. And sometimes we are consuming things to block out or mask something which we're not comfortable with. Yeah. Okay. That's a whole other podcast. That's another episode. Yes. So I think what we'd hope that people would take from this conversation today is you can't just work on mindset. Mm-hmm. You can't just work on nutrition. You can't just work on fitness. We are complicated. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean we all need a PhD to do it. It's simple steps. Mm-hmm. So get curious about different fruits. Yep, colours. Try and eat colours. Rainbow. Think rainbow. Smaller plate. Mm-hmm. And I love that, taking the time. I mean, putting the knife and fork down is great. You've actually twigged something in me that I've
I think is a great idea. Gratitude, because I think gratitude, again, another whole podcast on that. But to take that moment at the meal time to reflect on actually what are we grateful for today. I think that's a top tip.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
That's
I'm going to use that one. Claire, a pleasure as always.
Thank you.
And I hope those listening, you found that interesting today. I know I have. So you have been listening to a One Thought at a Time special on the connection between mind, body, and what we put in it. So if you have been, thanks for listening.